On today's episode, I'm doing a solo and I am talking about 10 cool things about you. Well, actually, I'm talking about 10 cool things about me, but I'm going to encourage you as a byproduct of that exploration to discover 10 or 10 and a half cool things about you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you love it. Hey everybody, it's Mike, and welcome back to this solo episode of the How Did It Happen podcast. So glad to have you here today. And today I am going to talk about 10 cool things about you. So back in July, I'm not sure if it was this July or the July before that, I was walking to the mailbox with my dog, Riley. She's a golden retriever. Any golden retriever fans out there? Really good dog and really good walker, but it's about a mile round trip from my house to the mailbox, which is on the street. And almost every morning I walk there with her, and then we go further through a neighborhood. And during that time, I listen to podcasts, or I listen to YouTube videos, or I go over a speech, or I take notes, or I think about something, or I just walk and listen. And she's just always there right beside me. And this day I was listening to a podcast with a guy named Dean Graziosi. And Dean was talking about an exercise that he did, and it was basically an exercise that he called 10 cool things about him. And I can't remember if it was his daughter that sort of influenced this with him, but regardless, it was like he was saying, there's cool things about everybody, and it's really easy to forget about what's cool about you because you're focused on maybe everything that's wrong with you, maybe everything that's going wrong in your life or your business or whatever. And it got my attention because I was like, maybe that's something I should do. So it wasn't something I have ever thought to do, I guess. So I got my phone out and I texted myself a message, 10 cool things about me. And as I mentioned, this was in July. And then, by the time I got home, I was excited about doing it, but I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I wrote in my notebook 10 cool things about me. And then I left the page blank and I just went on to other things. And it wasn't until later in August, I was sitting on the porch outside of our kitchen, watching the water with my wife. It was like a August afternoon. It was a nice day. And my neighbors to the right they were having some people over. So they were playing games in their yard and they were drinking beer. And for some reason, this 10 cool things thing just popped into my head. And I said to Jamie, I was like, I listened to this Dean Graziosi back in July and I wrote this down and I haven't done anything about it. Would you be willing to help me? And she said, no. And I said, what do you mean, no? Why won't you help me? And she said, well, these are supposed to be 10 cool things about you. What you think are 10 cool things about you, not what I think are 10 cool things about you. Yeah, she had a point. So I pleaded a little bit. I was like, well, okay, you're right. But I just really need some help, getting this thing off the ground because I was sort of struggling with, coming up with it and, doing it in a way that I didn't, like it sort of felt like bragging on yourself. And I think that was kind of the thing that was holding me back. So I was like, I just need to get started. Can you please help me? And she said, okay, if you come up with one, I'll help you after that. And I said, okay, great. So one cool thing about me is that I'm loyal. And she said, that sounds like a question. I said, damn it, you're right. Well, let me try it again. So I cleared my throat and I tried it again. One cool thing about me is that I'm loyal. That's more like it, she said. So here's another. Here's her contribution. She said, okay, you did one. Here's mine. You love trucks. And that was true. And that was cool, right? So we smiled at each other and I never would have thought of that one. Like I never would have thought of I love trucks as being something I should put down, but it's actually true. And it's, at least I think it's cool. And so anyway, that helped clear the idea jam that I had in my mind. And this is where we ended up with. So I'm going to tell you 10 cool things about me. And then I'm going to encourage you to make a list of 10 cool things about you. So here's number one. I'm loyal. I'm a good partner. I'm a good friend, and I'm a good leader. I give my all to every relationship that I commit to. There's a difference between every relationship and every relationship I commit to, but you can count on me to do right by you and to have your back. So number one, I'm loyal. Number two, I'm curious. I ask questions. I read a lot and I think about things. I like to know what I don't know, and I like to learn even more than I like to teach. So I like to learn more than I like to teach. I'm curious, and I think that's cool about me. Number three, I love trucks. It started when I was 4 years old, and I lived across the street from a construction company, and that led me to wanting to drive trucks. And my dad drove a truck, so when I was 16, I started driving trucks, and since then I've owned and driven lots of trucks in my businesses. Cool fact, my favorite kind of truck is a Peterbilt, not just because they look great, and you can be proud driving or owning a Peterbilt. Right now, I only own one Peterbilt, but that's going to change over time. So number four, I like to drive behind places. So you're like, what? What's cool about that? Well, I've been in the environmental and the waste business my whole career, and it's been very good to me and very rewarding. And it all happens in the back. It happens in the back of the factory, back of the store, back of the apartment building, back of whatever. That's where the waste is. That's where the dumpsters are. That's where the oil tanks are. That's where the grease traps are. That's where the 55-gallon drums of whatever hang out. So the polish is always in the front of the place. But for me, the business has always been in the back. And I think that's something cool about me. Number five, I care. I don't like to do anything half-assed. I believe in doing it the best way that I can do it, or I won't do it at all. And to me, the little things matter because the little things aggregate up to the big, most important things. I also care about people. I want everyone that I know to be impacted positively because they know me and to have made the time they spent with me meaningful for them. Number six, I'm not disciplined, but habit-lind. Kind of morphed that together and came up with that word, habit-lind. I believe that most people recognize, what most people recognize as discipline is the representation of a person's habits. And I've been fortunate to have the ability to build habits that support the accomplishment of my goals. My habits are what make me disciplined. Number seven, I'm not cheap. I don't waste money usually, but I'm not cheap. I take risks with my money, even when I don't have all that I need to fund the risk if it were to fail. And that may sound dumb, but I think that's cool. I try to be smart about it, but I will spend on an idea, on a person, on an education, or on anything else that I think has a good chance to make me and those around me better or more successful. Number eight, this is the number eight thing that's cool about me is I show up. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I am where I say I will be. Number nine, I'm polite. So being polite is kind of a signature for me. At least I think it is. I say please and thank you and you're welcome and I'm grateful. You know, those are all my calling cards, and everyone deserves that. They may not deserve much more, but everyone deserves to be polite and to have someone be polite to them. And I do my very best to do that. And I think that's something that's cool about me. Number 10, I love my wife and I love my life. We've been married for 30 years and we have two great kids who are now young adults. We trust and rely on one another. We don't tell each other what to do. We just always seem to figure out what's right for us together, and it works. I think that's one of the coolest things about me, even though I will admit I see a lot of husbands out there who I think are much better at it than I am. I see a lot of partners out there who I think are much better at it than I am. But I guess the proof is in the pudding. We must be doing something right. And I think that's cool about me. And here's a bonus. Here's 10.5. And it is I don't let things that I can't control bother me. That's a hard one because it's so easy to let things that you can't control bother you and just think about it. I'm not immune to it. I am not immune to it. I feel it sometimes. It comes on just like it does for all of you. I just do my very best not to hold on to it, to tell myself that it's irrational for me to be worried about something that I can't control. I may not like the outcome of it, but there's nothing I can do about it. And, chances are too that the outcome won't be anything like what I am thinking it will be. So I let go of things that I cannot control. And I think that's a good idea for all of us. So that's it for me. I'm glad I did the exercise. Thank you, Dean, for talking about it on your podcast. It really helped me. And while I was stuck, on this, not wanting to do it, I didn't want to come off as a bragger. I didn't want to come off as a douche. I didn't want to come off as, I don't know. I just didn't know. But now I'm very happy that I did it. And now I'm wondering, what are 10 or 10 and a half cool things about you? Write them down and celebrate them and be proud of the things that are cool about you, because the things that are cool about you are the things that attract other people to you, the things that attract other opportunities to you, the things that make you who you are, the things that people admire about you. So thanks so much for investing your time with me and your energy for this podcast. I hope you got a return on that investment today. And if you did, please follow my podcast, share my podcast, like my podcast, review my podcast, do whatever you can do to help me get the word out about the podcast. And until next time, I just encourage you to maximize your greatness and make your future your property, something you are very proud to own. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening to the show. And before you go, I just have 3 requests for you. 1, if you like what I'm doing, please consider subscribing or following the podcast on whatever podcast platform you prefer. If you're really into it, leave me a review, write something nice about me, give me 5 stars or whatever you feel is most appropriate. Number 2, I've got a book. It's called Ownershift: How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck. It's an Amazon bestseller. And I'd love for you to read it or listen to it on Audible or wherever else, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can get it everywhere. If you're looking for inspiration that will help you unlock your greatness and potential, order or download it today so that you can have your very own copy. And if you get it, please let me know what you think. Number 3, my newsletter. I do a newsletter every Thursday, and I talk about things that are interesting to me, and or I give more information about the podcast and the podcast guests that I've had and the experiences that I've had with them. You can sign up for the podcast today at my website, which is my name, MikeMalatesta.com. You do that right now, put in your email address, and you'll get the very next issue. The newsletter is short, thoughtful, and designed to inspire, activate, and maximize the greatness in you.